Tonight, 3 caving stories. All of them went horribly wrong. A wall of silt that erased the way home. A month of rain delivered in 40 minutes. And a room of ancient air that no map said should exist. Stay out of the dark. Marcus Hale had taught 140 students to cave dive, and in 11 years, he had never once lost his grip on a guideline. He opened every course with the same sentence: the cave is not trying to kill you. It is simply not trying to save you. On May 19th, 2015, 9 minutes into a routine exit through the longest underwater cave system in the United States, that sentence came due. Marcus was 38, a full cave instructor on the Florida Springs, careful in the way only long-timers are. His wife teased him about it. He laid his gear out on a bedsheet the night before every dive. Twin tanks weighed, regulators facing east. That morning, he ran the sequence twice, because that morning, he had a student. Peacock Springs threads more than 10 kilometers of mapped tunnel, 33,000 feet, under a quiet Florida State Park. The water runs clear as air on a good day. Divers come from every continent to run its lines, and from the grass, its entrance pool looks like nothing at all. They dropped at 9 into 72-degree water. The plan was modest, and Marcus liked modest. 800 feet up the main line, 60 minutes of gas in each tank against a 40-minute tour. Thirds on the cylinders, 1/3 in, 1/3 out, 1/3 untouched. While Denny settled his buoyancy, Marcus clipped his backup light and watched the entrance glow shrink behind them into a soft green coin. For 20 minutes, the dive went the way the textbook draws it, Denny holding the line like a rail. The cave opened its white galleries one after another, clean gold rope running ahead, and Marcus felt the specific contentment of a professional watching a plan behave. At the 600-foot mark, he checked gas, right on schedule, and turned them for home. 22 minutes into the dive, the accident arrived, and it had a cause. One careless downward fin stroke, Denny's, into a floor of silt that had been settling for 1,000 years. Because of that single kick, the visibility failed in 4 seconds flat, and a brown wall climbed the tunnel and shut the cave like a curtain. Divers call it a silt out, and the words do not carry it. It is not darkness. A light works in darkness. It is a wall. Marcus raised his lamp, and the beam came back at him, a white glare an inch from his mask. He could not see his gauges or his student. He had 400 feet of cave between him and the sky, and roughly 30 minutes of gas to solve it in. His hand found the guideline with a click of the reel against rock, and his training spoke before his fear could. Do not let go. The line is the cave's only sentence. Lose it, and the tunnels multiply around you in the dark. His other hand swept a slow arc for his student and closed on nothing but water. Then it got worse, the way pressure always makes it worse. Marcus was breathing at twice his resting rate now, and the arithmetic moved with his lungs. At this depth, every minute of searching cost him 3 minutes of exit gas. 26 minutes of gas remained. The exit, swum blind, hand over hand, would need 18. He made the instructor's choice. He stayed, 1 full minute by the sweep of his watch hand, anchored to the line, torch pulsing the emergency signal into a fog that swallowed it whole. His glove crossed a fin blade and held. He was stuck. Airless dark. No line home. Then fingers, and Denny's hand closed on his wrist like a trap snapping shut. The exit was 400 feet of touch. Marcus put Denny's hand on his harness and let out blind through the wall, panic walking one step behind him the whole way. At the 300-foot mark, the silt opened a strange, clear window for one breath, the gallery beyond glowing calm and lovely, gold rope shining across it. Then the dark crushed back in, the silt wall sealed, and the line dipped under a restriction where a stuck tank could end them both. He exhaled, compressed, and pulled them both through, tanks scraping the ceiling with a low metal groan. 19 minutes of blind swimming brought the gauge down to 11 minutes of gas, then 7, then 5, the regulator hissing harder as the gas nearly ran out. And then the fog thinned, the way fog does, all at once, and the green coin of the entrance hung above them, ordinary as a porch light. They surfaced at 10:21, and both men survived a dive that ends differently in every statistics table. Marcus checked his gauge on the grass, 300 psi, a margin of about 4 minutes. Denny sat in the shallows for a long time, and Marcus led him. The silt in the longest underwater cave in the United States settled back within a day, the way it always does, and Peacock went back to looking like nothing at all. Marcus still teaches, but the first slide of his course changed that summer. A photograph of a brown wall, and under it, 4 words in white letters. The line is life. His students think it is a slogan. It is a receipt. And on August 4th, 2018, at 10 minutes to 2, cold rain began drumming the moor above Gaping Gill, a hole that rescue teams refuse to enter while it floods, and Aaron Calloway's partner had roughly 40 minutes to hear about it. He never did. This is the story of where those 40 minutes went. Aaron Calloway was 31 years old and had spent 9 years of Saturdays underground, the kind of climber who hummed the same 3 songs on every trip. Her partner was Tom, 34, stronger than careful, 6 months into the sport and in love with all of it. Aaron had checked the forecast twice, showers possible after 5. It was barely noon. Gaping Gill is England's most famous pothole, a moorland stream stepping off a ledge and falling 105 meters, 344 feet, into a chamber big enough to hold a cathedral. Cavers share the shaft with the waterfall. Ropes hung a polite distance from the spray. They dropped by 12:30, and the descent went like a postcard. The great chamber glowed where the waterfall's mist caught their lamps, and Aaron led them into the dry eastern passages, a circuit she had done a dozen times. For most of an hour, the cave was generous. Clean crawls, cool air, the stream a mild conversation below the boulders. Tom kept stopping to grin at things. Here is the arithmetic over every British pothole. The moor above is a funnel. 11 square kilometers of saturated peat drain toward that one shaft, and a cloudburst can raise the stream from ankle deep to lethal in under an hour. Rescue teams call these systems flood pulsed. The pulse travels faster than a person can crawl. At 6 minutes past 2, the trip stopped being routine. Erin put her hand flat in the streamway and froze. The water pressed her fingers with a new opinion. 2 fingers deep an hour ago, 4 now, and carrying grit, which meant it was eating the moor above them. She said one word: out. The flood had a cause, and the cause was already history. A thunderhead had stalled against Ingleborough Hill at 10 to 2. Because the peat was already full from a wet June, the moor refused the water and sent all of it, a month's rain in 40 minutes, down the funnel toward Gaping Gill. They moved fast and well, and it did not matter. The mild conversation below the boulders became a voice, then a roar with a floor under it. At the junction, the truth was waiting. The exit crawl was gone. The river had it. They were trapped. No way out. It had happened because the pulse moves faster than people, and now A brown, ceiling-high river ran where the route home had been, rising 3 centimeters a minute. Tom went to his knees at the water's edge, panicking. Erin was not. She pulled him back by the chest strap and lit the one thing the flood could not touch, a limestone shelf 2 body lengths up the wall, dry as paper. They climbed and the water followed. It took the ledge below them in 20 minutes and rose to a hand's width beneath their boots. Then it stopped, holding there, patient, loud as a train in a tunnel. Freezing cold moved in where the fear had been, and the dark leaned on their one working lamp. They had no food and a wet Yorkshire night coming somewhere above the stone. And once, Erin admitted this later, embarrassed, the flood was beautiful. Their lamp caught the river glowing amber with peat, smooth as poured glass, lovely and wrong, a thing with no interest in them at all. Beside her, Tom had gone quiet in a way she did not like. At 9 that evening, 7 hours onto the shelf, Tom announced the water was low enough and he was strong enough. Erin said the only true thing: nobody swims a flood pulse. In the freezing dark, he held the idea the way the cave held the rain, and she talked him down twice. The third time, at some black hour she never learned, she woke to a splash. Wren had raised the alarm at dusk, and the cave rescue organization came onto the moor at first light with 40 volunteers. A rescuer named Callum Pryor found Erin at 10:30, hypothermic and hoarse from shouting into the roar, and hauled her up the shaft in a casualty bag, alive. The water was already falling. Floods leave the way guests do, without apology. They found Tom 2 days later, 400 meters downstream, past 3 sumps no swimmer could beat. He had died within minutes of the splash that woke her. The inquest wrote misadventure, and the coroner read the timeline aloud. Storm at 10 to 2, pulse at 1/2 and 40 minutes when one call to the surface watcher would have turned them around. A call nobody made, because the sky had looked kind at noon. Erin still caves. Rescue teams still refuse to enter gaping Gill in flood. The water writes that rule, not them. The question that stays is the one the coroner could not answer. How do you outrun rain that fell 40 minutes ago, onto a moor you cannot see, into a river that knows the way down better than you ever will? The last known mark on Rafael Mena's dive slate is a pencil arrow pointing at nothing, and under it, one word in block capitals: air. On February 11th, 2016, that slate spent 19 hours in the place no map of the longest underwater cave on Earth said should exist. Rafael was 45 years old and had surveyed flooded caves in the Yucatan for 2 decades, a quiet man who had mapped more passage than anyone on his team, and who phoned his mother in Mérida every Sunday, kind week or not. His teammates called him the metronome. Nothing about him hurried. Sistema Sac Actun runs under the jungle of Quintana Roo like a drowned root system. 370 kilometers of passage, the longest underwater cave known on Earth, entered through cenotes that open in the forest floor like blue eyes. New tunnel is found every year. That is what surveyors are for. The team dropped through Cenote Alma at 8 with a calm plan. 600 meters of new line off Gallery 9, 90 minutes of gas per diver for a 60-minute task, thirds kept holy. For the first hour, it ran like his nickname, knots on schedule, the new tunnel white and generous, the water so clear the beams crossed it like wires, Lucia's light a steady star behind him. Past the 600-meter mark, the gallery forked, and the left fork rose. Rising passage usually means a dome, and domes sometimes hold what divers quietly hope for, and rarely find. He signaled Lucia, tied a jump line to the main, and followed the ceiling up. The accident had a cause, and the cause was the ceiling itself. A slab of it, loosened by 10,000 years of patience, chose that hour to fail. It let go with a crack like artillery and came down in a slow white avalanche, boulders knocking hollow as they settled. The line was cut. The exit was gone. He was trapped. Rock everywhere. The percussion wave shoved him upward through boiling silt, because when a ceiling fails underwater, the water has to go somewhere, and so does the diver. His head broke water in absolute darkness. Air. A dome the survey said should not exist. A borrowed room of trapped, ancient atmosphere, 4 meters wide, its ceiling a hand above his helmet. Here is the mathematics of an air bell, and it is crueler than drowning. The pocket held perhaps 300 liters of breathable air, 12 hours if he stayed calm, 8 if he did not. His tanks held 19 minutes of gas against an exit that would take longer to search. And trapped air goes foul from the inside. Every exhale traded oxygen for carbon dioxide, the quiet gas, the one that panics the body all by itself. So Rafael did what metronomes do. Inventory. 1 working lamp, 1 dying backup, a slate, half a chocolate bar in a dry tube. He wrote the time, 10:41, and under it, the arrow and the word air, the surveyor's habit of leaving data for whoever comes next. His regulator hissed as he hung it, then the click of the lamp switch, and the darkness closed over him like a lid, dripping somewhere in slow applause. Once an hour, he lit the lamp for 60 seconds, and the room repaid him with unexpected beauty. A lovely, calm vault of white flowstone, glowing wet and gold, older than language, never before seen by anyone. He was, he understood, the first human being ever to breathe in this room. He tried not to think about the other statistic that could make him. By the 12th hour, the air had turned, each breath smaller, his headache building like weather. Twice he caught his own mind sliding toward the exit tanks. 19 minutes of clean gas, a coin flip against a collapsed maze. And twice, the metronome in him said, "Not yet." She knows the line. Hold. Lucia had surfaced at noon, alarmed at Gallery 9's silence, and by dusk had 4 cave divers and a sump rescue specialist staging at Cenote Alma. It took 2 entries and 11 hours to find the collapse, and another 90 minutes to thread a bypass through its flank. A rescuer named Beto Carrillo, following the survey line Rafael had laid, right up to the cut end, pointing at the dome. At 5:58 in the morning, 19 hours after the ceiling failed, a green glow bloomed in the floor of the room, and Rafael watched a light rise toward him like a slow sunrise. Beto surfaced with a spare tank scraping the flowstone lip, spat out his regulator, and said the most beautiful sentence in the Spanish language. "Your mother says answer your phone." They swam him out on the fresh tank, and Rafael Mena survived, dehydrated, hypercapnic, cold to the bone, breathing sky by 7. The dome entered the survey 3 weeks later, under the name his slate had already given it, Cuarto Prestado, the borrowed room. Beto Carrillo still dives rescue in the cenotes, and he keeps a photograph of a pencil slate above his workbench, an arrow, 1 word, a time. He says it is the best survey data he has ever followed. Somewhere in the longest underwater cave on Earth, the room Rafael borrowed keeps its 10,000-year silence again, having lent its air exactly once.